All right, it's 10 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get started. Let me check in with Kim Mitchell. Kim Mitchell, just give me the signal. Perfect. There you are. Okay. All right, let's go. Go on the record, please, ma'am. Good morning. I'm Charlotte Mitchell, Chair of the Utilities Commission, and with me this morning are the following commissioners. When I announce your name, please announce your presence. Commissioner Brown-Bland.
Good morning.
Commissioner Gray.
Hi.
Commissioner
Oops, here.
Commissioner Clodfelter.
Yes, good morning.
Commissioner Duffy.
Good morning.
Commissioner Hughes.
Good morning.
And Commissioner McKissick.
Good morning.
In compliance with the State Government Ethics Act, I remind members of the Commission of their duty to avoid conflicts of interest and inquire as to whether any member of the Commission has a known conflict of interest with respect to matters coming before us. All right, the record will reflect no conflicts have been identified, so we will proceed with Public Staff Communications. Item P1, Ms. Profit, you're up.
Good morning. My name is Karen Profit of the Public Staff, Water, Sewer, and Telephone Division. Item P1 presents the filing of the joint application of Charter Fiber Link NCCCO LLC and Time Water Cable Information Services North Carolina LLC. Each were seeking designation as an eligible telecommunications carrier for the purpose of receiving federal universal service fund support to provide voice and broadband services in certain areas defined by the census blocks that lack these services, and offer discounts to qualifying low-income consumers through the Federal Communication Commission's Lifeline program. These companies seek ETC designation for census blocks as specified in Exhibit A for Charter Fiber Link and Exhibit B for Time Warner Cable Information Services North Carolina. The public staff reviewed the joint application and additional filings, and we believe that the charter entities satisfy the requirements for designation as an ETC. The public staff recommends that the Commission issue an order finding that the charter entities, which is Charter Fiber Link and Time Warner Cable Information Services North Carolina, have met the requirements to serve as an ETC in the requested census blocks and designating each as an ETC as requested. A copy of the proposed order is attached as exhibit number P1.
Move approval of the recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the item be approved as recommended by the public staff. Any questions, discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, I will call the roll for a vote. Indicate your support for the motion with an aye and your opposition with a no. Commissioner Brown-Bland.
Aye.
Commissioner Gray.
Aye.
Commissioner Clodfelter.
Aye.
Commissioner Duffy.
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Hughes is an aye, and Commissioner McKissick.
Aye.
And for the record, I support the motion as well, and the motion carries. All right, thank you, Ms. Profit. We will proceed now to public staff. Water, item P1, Ms. Castleberry.
Good morning, Gina Castleberry. Item P1 is docket number W1305 sub 8. On May 8th, 2018, Plurals Hampstead LLC filed an application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to provide sewer service in Wiley branches, phase 1 and 2 in Pender County, North Carolina, and for approval of rates. On April 2nd, 2021, Plurals Hampstead filed the North Carolina non-warranty deed sewerage pump station lot serving Wiley branch, completing the application. The staff recommends that the Commission issue proposed order granting as an approved order and its proposed rates.
I think move approval on the recommendation.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that the item be approved as recommended by the public staff. Any questions or discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll for a vote. Indicate your support for the motion with an aye and your opposition with a no. Commissioner Brown-Bland.
Aye.
Commissioner Gray.
Aye.
Commissioner Clodfelter.
Aye.
Commissioner Duffy.
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes.
Aye.
Commissioner McKissick.
Aye.
And for the record, I support the motion as well, and the motion carries. All right, we will proceed to public staff. Water item P2, Ms. Castleberry, we're with you again.
Item P2 is docket number W1305, sub 18. I'd like to point out that there was a typo in paragraph 6. The word agreement should be replaced with sewer service permit, and that goes with the finding of fact number 6 as well. So it should read sewer service permit. February 4th, 2020, February study on the education for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to provide sewer utility service at 11207 and 11243 US Highway 17, Hampstead, in Pender County, North Carolina, and for approval of rates. Public staff recommends that the public staff order granting franchise and approving Plurus Hampstead's proposed rates, including correcting the error that I pointed out earlier in the proposed order.
All right, I'll take a
Can
motion.
can I get
Move
her to
approval.
repeat her last sentence, please? It broke up on me.
All right, Ms.
The public
Castleberry,
staff
would you please repeat
recommends
your
that
last?
the public staff recommends that the commission issue the proposed order granting the franchise and approving Plurus Hampstead's proposed rates, including replacing agreement with sewer service permit in the order.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll second. I was on mute, but I'll second and add that as corrected by Ms. Castleberry during presentation.
All right, for purposes of the record, the motion came from Commissioner Gray. Is that correct, Commissioner Gray? Okay. With a second from Commissioner Brown Bland. All right, it's been moved and seconded that the item be approved as corrected by and recommended by the public staff. Any questions or discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll for a vote. Indicate your support for the motion with an aye and your opposition with a no. Commissioner Brown Bland.
Aye.
Commissioner Gray.
Aye.
Commissioner Clodfelter.
Aye.
Commissioner Duffy.
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes.
Aye.
Commissioner McKissick.
Aye.
And for the record, I support the motion as well, and the motion carries. All right. We will proceed now to public staff. Water item P3, Ms. Castleberry, you're up again.
Item P3 is docket number W1305, sub 19. On February 4th, 2020, Plurus Hampstead filed an application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to provide sewer utility service at 15441 Bailey Shops, 15489 Vintage Associates, 15395 Hampstead Go Gas, and 15531 Hampstead United Methodist Church, US Highway 17, Hampstead, North Carolina, and for approval of rates. On October 29, 2020, Plurus Hampstead filed an agreement and conveying lift station and granting easements with Bailey dated May 21st, 2020, and on March 31st, 2021, an agreement to convey lift station facilities and grant easements with Vintage dated July 1st, 2020, completing its application. The staff recommends that the commission issue proposed order granting the franchise and approving Plurus Hampstead's price and approving proposed rates.
Move approval of the recommendation.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that the item be approved as recommended by the public staff. Any questions or discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, I'll call the roll for a vote. Indicate your support for the motion with an aye and your opposition with a no. Commissioner Brown Bland.
Aye.
Commissioner Clodfelter.
Aye.
Sorry, Commissioner Gray, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Aye.
Commissioner Clodfelter.
Aye, and that's not 2 votes, it's just 1 vote repeated.
Got it. All right. Commissioner Duffy.
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes,
Aye.
and Commissioner McKissick.
Aye. I'll take 2 votes.
Oh, Commissioner McKissick. All right, and for the record, I support the motion as well, and the motion carries. All right, thank you, Ms. Castleberry. You had the heavy lift this morning. We will proceed now to public staff supplemental water. Item P1, Mr. Grantmeyer, you're up.
Good morning, Bill Grantmeyer, Public Staff Legal. This is supplemental P1 water, docket number W 1148 sub 20. It's Mountain Air Utilities Corporation petition for appointment of emergency operator. On April 29, 2021, the public staff filed a petition to appoint Carolina Water, the emergency operator for the Mountain Air water and wastewater utility systems at Mountain Air in Yancey County. This is near Burnsville, and it has approximately 480 customers. The Mountain Air system is mainly at the top of the mountain. You know, there's a lot of systems in the mountains, but this one is at the top of the mountain, or most of it. This was a franchise utility to the developer. Mountain Air Utility Corporation is an affiliate of the developer. And on April 5, 2021, the utility emailed to the commission a request for an emergency operator to be appointed. In my 44 years doing water and wastewater before the commission, almost all the commission appointed emergency operators have been developer-owned utilities. As you could tell, I'm deviating a little bit from my agenda item. Going forward, I suggest that the commission consider much higher bonds if it's going to be a developer-owned utility. I would suggest a minimum bond for developer-owned utilities of at least $100,000. The current minimum is $10,000, but that was established in the 1980s. Mountain Air Utility does have a $30,000 bond, which was posted in 2001. The emergency upgrades required of the emergency operator will materially exceed the $30,000. Last week, First Citizens Bank, who has the letter of credit, filed a 60-day notice of cancellation. GS 62-110.3D states that the appointment of an emergency operator forfeits the bond. It also has required wording in that same subsection that the commission must decide the amount of the bond to be forfeited. And I have drafted supplemental language and submitted it to the commission staff, adding a finding of fact and an ordering paragraph that the amount necessary to cure the emergency will materially exceed the $30,000. The Mountain Air POA filed a letter with the commission on April 26 requesting an emergency operator be appointed. Carolina Water has agreed to be appointed emergency operator, and Carolina has more than 40 years experience operating water and wastewater systems in the North Carolina mountains. They have 23 different service areas in the North Carolina mountains, ranging all the way from Ashe County in the northwest to far western Cherokee County in the southwest. Carolina Water currently is the emergency operator for 3 systems up in Ashe County, and for 24 years has been the emergency operator of a system in Durham County. Carolina Water was also recently the emergency operator in Macon County for Riverbend Utilities, and as y'all could remember, the famous power outage at the Franklin Courthouse. Carolina Water will advance significant funds as necessary to make the emergency upgrades, which are desperately needed. The public staff, as was approved in the Webb Creek emergency operator several years ago, is recommending hybrid returns for Carolina Water. As you remember, Plurus Webb Creek had to replace the dilapidated wastewater treatment plant, but they also had to make material upgrades, temporary upgrades. The hybrid approach has a return on rate base for whatever they invest in the system, and it also has an operating margin on the operating expenses. The public staff believes that Carolina Water is well qualified to be the emergency operator and recommends that the commission issue the public staff's approved recommended order and call in the $30,000 bond letter credit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grantmeyer. Several questions for you. First, I want to express my appreciation to the public staff and to Carolina Water for working together to get things in order out there. Thank you. I know it's been a fire drill, and I know you all are already, both the company and the public staff, already stretched thin to cover workload. So thank you. Also, thank you, Mr. Grantmeyer, for your suggestion that the commission consider bond amounts. We will take you up on that suggestion at some point in time in the near future. Just curiosity, Mr. Grantmeyer, with respect to cost recovery, I understand the recommendations of public staff regarding the returns on investment that Carolina Water is going to be required to make. But in an instance like this where this, pending before the commission is the transfer application to the Redbird entity, not to Carolina Water, at what point in time and how will Carolina Water seek cost recovery for the investment it's having to make here?
Well, in emergency operator appointments, the emergency operator is always made whole. And if the commission were to approve a transfer to another entity, then the public staff would recommend in the commission order that the other entity reimburse Carolina Water for its full investment, and they would add that to the rate base.
Okay.
Or the commission could assess the customers for the emergency operator. But emergency operators, it's always required that they be made whole. And, being an emergency operator is not fun, and it's really hard to get them. So we always want to make sure they're made whole.
Understood. Understood. All right. Thank you for that. Additional questions for the public staff on this matter?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right, Commissioner Brown-Bland.
Mr. Grantmeyer, I just wonder if you could, well, first, are the customers actually feeling or experiencing or otherwise aware of the impacts of the situation now?
They're very much aware. There have been a number of water outages and a number of sewer leaks or sanitary sewer overflows. The customers really want an emergency operator. And I think the customers are going to be intervening in the transfer case very shortly.
All right. I was just wondering if this was visible to them, but it sounds like it very definitely is.
Yes, if I could add something, the way we've structured the customer notice, it's a short customer notice, and the developers work with the POA that they will distribute it by email to all the POA members. So the day or day after the order's issued, they would have notice, and we're also in the notice giving them instructions how to get to the full commission order so they could read that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Grantmeyer. I move approval of the public staff's recommendation, including that we call in the bond.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that the recommendation of the public staff be approved. Questions or discussion on this motion? Commissioner Hughes, I saw that your hand
Chairman
was
Mitchell,
up.
I had my hand up.
Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Grantmeyer. Just a few questions. The 15 million in liens, could you give us a little bit more information about those? Are they for debts that were incurred in building the original system? Are they for something completely different that the water system was used as collateral? And what's the status of those liens? Who owns those liens?
We have data requests out to get that information. The liens, this is a development, and it's a beautiful development, but it failed after the recession in 2008. And a number of deeds of trust on the development were foreclosed. And there might be some judgment liens also. These are not really liens of the utility, but as happens in many, many developer-owned systems, the developer intermingles the utility property with the real estate property. And quite frankly, they're very sloppy about ever transferring the property to the utility. And so that's all going to have to be worked out, and it's going to take a significant amount of time. To my knowledge, the utility assets, as utility assets, were not really encumbered, but it's really that they're in names other than the utility that are encumbered. So what we have is a real mess.
I like that technical term. I just got a couple other questions. You had mentioned that one option for the cost recovery was to, quote, assess the customers. How exactly would that proceed? And I apologize if I should know this. What is the authority for us to assess an individual customer, or would we grant the future utility the ability to do that?
I'd have to find that. I know it's happened a number of times before. I think in emergency operators, the commission has the power to issue assessments, and it's different than if it's just a utility. Carolina Water could have requested a rate increase, which would have provided more funds, but since they'll be made whole, they did not want to burden the customers at this time. But I'd have to get the exact authority, but I know it's been done a number of times in the past. Christmount was not an emergency operator, but we assessed the customers there a couple of years ago for the system upgrades. And I know we assessed customers down years ago down on the coast where Ivaricon's wastewater plant collapsed, and we assessed the customers there for the renovations to the plant.
Well, if you could provide some information, we can work with our staff to just get a little bit more on the history of how that would work. And I'm assuming some of these customers are, I mean, most of the customers are residential, but some of the customers are, I assume, the clubhouse and the commercial, and the commercial components of this development. So it would be interesting to see what our powers were to assess some of those, potentially high value customers that would be able to pay assessments. So I'd be interested in that.
This is a very high-end community. It has an airplane landing strip on the top of the mountain, which is paved. So the customers will not feel any pain paying an assessment. There's only about 60 full-time residents on the mountain, and there are 400 and some odd residences. So the season will get very busy in a hurry in the next couple of weeks. Carolina Water has agreed to become emergency operator effective next Monday, May 10th. They've needed a substantial amount of time to prepare so they could hit the ground running.
Okay, well, last question, I'll leave it to my colleagues who probably have more questions. What has the county in your discussions, negotiations, whatever you want to call them, has the county had a seat at the table? I understand this is, I believe, a planned unit development that the county recruited, approved. I'm just curious if they've had any involvement at all in her.
The county has not had any involvement to date, and I doubt the county would have any interest. The wastewater is treated, bulk wastewater treatment, by the town of Burnsville. And quite frankly, with only 60 permanent residents on the mountain, the voters up there have little to say as to what goes on in the county.
Okay, that's all for now. Thank you very much, and I echo my colleagues. Thanks for what I think the technical term is mess of you all dealing with this.
All right, any additional questions or discussion on the motion? Commissioner McKissick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Grantmeyer, just a few questions. I gather Redbird is not currently a regulated entity in North Carolina. Do we have any idea what kind of time frame would be required for them to become a regulated entity in our state to qualify as such?
They have filed 8 transfer applications and 1 application for a certificate of public convenience. That's down on Pine Knoll Shores. We had sent them letters as to deficiencies in their contracts, in their applications. And for the first 2, they have, in April, I think it was April 15th, they finalized those contracts. I don't know how long it would take to finalize the others. I don't know how long it would take to finalize this case, that is Mountain Air, because I understand there's going to be interveners in the case. And Ed Finley is the intervener's lawyer, and so.
Okay. Do we know if Redbird has experience in other jurisdictions? And to what extent? What I don't even know how large of a company this is or how experienced they are, whether they're, maybe you can give me some idea.
They have systems in Missouri, I believe Kentucky, I think Arkansas and Louisiana, and possibly Tennessee. They're fairly new in acquiring systems. They've been doing it the last 3 or 4 years. So we don't know too much about them, and that'll be part of the due diligence that we'll have during the discovery process. We're just within the last week, we started sending out data requests for the 2 applications that they've completed.
Got it. And I understand from reading the materials that basically the appointment of Carolina Water Service today continues, and they will function in that capacity until some future point in time. But at any point, they could theoretically decide they wanted to withdraw. Is that correct, the way it works?
That is correct, but they have been continued. Carolina Water has always upheld its obligations as emergency operator until there was a permanent solution in place. Like I said, that one in Durham they've had for 24 years. It's the hardscrabble system over there in Durham, the sewer system, and they've been doing the 3 water systems in Ashe County about 5 years. So they have the ability to resign. But in my discussions with Carolina Water President, Mr. Denton, they fully intend to be the emergency operator until the commission approves the transfer to somebody.
Well, I think that probably answered my next question. If there was any time frame during, for the appointment of emergency operator, but I gather it's basically indefinite then until somebody else comes along.
Yes, I got an emergency operator back in the 1980s, and it's still an emergency operator. Small little system near Gardner, North Carolina. So sometimes you just got it forever, which is why it's important that the emergency operator gets some compensation.
Sure, I agree. Thank you, Mr. Grantmeyer. I don't have any further questions.
All right, with that, unless there are any additional questions for the public staff, I'll go ahead and call the roll for a vote.
Chair Mitchell, just a really quick question. Follow-up question, please.
All right, please proceed.
Just about the emergency operators, is it possible for an emergency operator to participate in the purchase of the system that they're operating? Is there any preclusion for that?
They are not precluded, and so they could get involved, but I don't think Carolina Water intends to. The current proceeding with Redbird would need to be decided either for or against the transfer. And if it was decided against the transfer to Redbird, the public staff would encourage Carolina Water to acquire the system. And I use the word encourage. There's no commitment to acquire it.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for. No further questions, Chair.
All right, with that, I will go ahead and call the roll for a vote. Indicate your support for the motion with an aye and your opposition with a no. Commissioner Brown-Bland.
Aye.
Commissioner Gray.
Aye.
Commissioner Clodfelter.
Aye.
Commissioner Duffy.
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes.
Aye.
Commissioner McKissick.
Aye.
And for the record, I support the motion as well, and the motion carries. All right, thank you, Mr. Grantmeyer. Okay, moving on, the commission has before it for approval its minutes from staff conference of April 26th, 2021. I'll take a motion, please.
Move approval of the minutes.
And a second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that our minutes be approved. Any questions, discussion on that motion? All in favor of approving our minutes indicate with an aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, our minutes of April 26th are approved. All right, turning next to additional business. I see that Sam has come on screen. So Sam, I will turn it over to you for introduction of our newest addition to the commission staff.
Thank you very much. Good morning, commissioners. It's my pleasure to introduce Erin Duffy this morning. She actually served as a staff attorney some years ago, and we are very excited to have her return to us. She's also a law school graduate of Vanderbilt, so we don't even need to get into ACC disputes with her, but she has regulatory experience before she came on with us in DC with the old ICC and with the FCC. So we're extremely pleased to have her join us. Erin, if you can unmute yourself and say hi, then folks will get a chance to see your face and recognize you for the future.
Sure. Thanks, Sam. I think I successfully unmuted myself, and I'm delighted to be back. It feels sort of like coming home, but I also know I have a lot to catch up on and a lot to learn, and I'll appreciate your grace and patience as that takes place. But I'm really, really glad to be here.
Super. Thank you, Chair Mitchell.
All right, thank you, Sam, and welcome, Erin. We are delighted that you're here with us. You already clearly can function well on this video conference technology. You can mute and unmute, so you are way ahead of the game there. So no doubt you are going to you're going to be an excellent addition to the team who can jump right in. So, and I'll withhold all comments about Vanderbilt, at least for the time being. All right.
Commodores.
With that, any additional business for the commission this morning before we adjourn? All right, hearing none, we'll be adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.